chapter 5, starting with verses 8 through 11. And as you're going there, just for your information, I decided to title the sermon, Jesus Did It. And the reason being is because Paul, the writer of Romans, is going to show us here in Romans chapter 5, verses 8 through 11, that these two major realities of the gospel, that Christ paid your price, and then because of that, he then made you right. And so let's just already begin reading right here in Romans chapter 5, starting with verse 8. But God demonstrates his own love toward us, in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Much more than having now been justified by his blood, we shall be saved from wrath through him. For if when we were enemies, we were reconciled to God through the death of his Son, much more, having been reconciled, we shall be saved by his life. And not only that, but we also rejoice in God through our Lord Jesus Christ, through whom we have now received the reconciliation. So you can already see right off the bat this first reality that Paul is pointing to, and that is Christ paid your price. And so maybe the first question that comes to mind is, okay, so what is that price that Christ apparently paid for that is shown in verses 8 and 10? Well, in chapters 1 through 4, Paul is speaking to the Roman church in Rome, made up of both non-Jewish and Jewish believers. And he's trying to unify them under this one concept and this one idea that all humanity is trapped under this cycle of always looking to other gods, idols, you name it. And that man in and of himself is guilty as charged. But that was the case until God sent his only Son to die on a cross and bear a cross that only he could bear and pay a price only he could pay. So actually one day, in a little town known as Dallas, Georgia, which is actually a real town, believe it or not, little old John P. Walton Elementary School, Mrs. Kahn, one of the teachers at the school, was trying to drag this little boy. He was a rebellious kid. His name was Pablo. Trying to drag him over to the principal's office. And once they got there, Principal Downs, the principal, was there waiting as usual, and then looked at Mrs. Kahn and said, well, what did Pablo do today? And Mrs. Kahn would say, well, little Pablo here decided to punch little Tommy in the face and shove his face in the sandbox. And, Pablo took pride in what he did. He was like, yeah, that's right, I did that. But Principal Downs was not moved by any of this. He looked down at Pablo and said, well, today, Pablo, you're going to be learning about the lesson of grace. And Pablo, he's kind of confused. He's like, wait, grace, the thing that you do before you eat? Like, I don't want any of your stinky grace. But again, Principal Downs just responding. He's like, see, grace is getting what you don't deserve, so today you won't be getting what you deserve. And Pablo, thinking it's way too good, he's like, oh, so you're just going to let me walk out like I did nothing? Like, what's the case? But then Principal Downs, again, he was like, no, there's still a punishment, there's still a price to be paid. And before he could even finish that sentence, Pablo did stuck out his arms like this, and he was like, see, I knew it was too good to be true. I'll take the punishment. And then Principal Downs looked over at Mrs. Kahn and told him to get his belt. And of course, this was acceptable at the time, a form of punishment. Right when Pablo thought he was about to receive this punishment, Principal Downs then got on one knee, lowered Pablo's arms to his sides, and then looked him in the face and said, I want you to count the blows. And he looked at Mrs. Kahn, stretched out his own arms like this, and he said, begin. And then strike after strike, blow after blow, Mrs. Kahn began beating across the arms of the principal. They started swelling, they were getting red, he started sweating profusely, and he was grunting underneath the pain. And of course, Pablo's over here, he's shaking under the pressure, and he's like, he can't even count. He just begins to bawl, and he begins to scream. He's like, no, that was me, I did it, stop. And he tried to stop it, and then once he noticed he couldn't stop it, he just got on his knees and began to bawl, and to the point that he just broke, and this former rebel is now on his knees. And then once the punishment had ceased, the principal then grabbed the little boy in his arms like this, cradled him, and he said, this, my son, is the lesson of grace. See, I want you to understand that Jesus took on your punishment even while you were still in rebellion. Realize that he loved you before you could ever muster up enough courage to love him back. He didn't wait for you to get yourself together, to make yourself righteous, to cleanse yourself, for him to love you, for him to die for you. And meditating on the exorbitant, scandalous love to bring gratitude and thanksgiving and praise to your attitude. And so, on that note, I would like to point to this second reality that we have in Jesus, and that is Christ made you right. And let's jump to verse 9 where Paul is then saying, much more than having now been justified by his blood, we shall be saved from wrath through him. And I wanted to point our attention to this one word, justified, which comes from this Greek word that means, I make righteous, defend the cause of, or justify. And this resource helps word studies, gives a clearer definition to what it means. And that is, the believer is made righteous by the Lord and cleared of all charges related to their sins, which we mentioned previously. And moreover, there's the word, justified by God's grace. And just in case you didn't know, something about me, I love to play guitar. I've been playing ever since I was a kid. But back in the summer of 2013, I was looking for my first really good guitar. And I was looking through all these Craigslist ads, and I happened to come across this 60th anniversary Fender Telecaster. And I fell in love with that thing, and then I went over to my worship pastor at the time. I was like, hey, Joe, do you think I should buy this guitar? And him knowing the nature of Craigslist ads, he was like, let me go check it out for you and see if it's legit or not. So he went to this very sketchy music studio in the middle of Atlanta. He pulled up and there was this guy waiting for him. He was like, oh, you in for the guitar? Just come right out back. Took him to the very back of this music studio where they had guitars lined up left and right. And then the guy just happened to yank out this one guitar that was sitting there, opened the guitar case, and let me tell you, what was sitting in that guitar case was not what was on Craigslist. I'm telling you, this thing was covered in cigarette shavings. It was nasty. It was old, and it smelled like must. It was just nasty. But I don't know what was going on in Joe's mind, and he looked at it and he was like, you know what? I'll buy it. I'll take it. So he decided to buy it there at the moment, took it home, and that's just when he went to town. He opened that guitar case. He removed the guitar strings, removed the pickups that were inside the guitar, and just been cleaning out all the scum and all the dirt that had been built up in that guitar for so many years. And then he slapped it. He slapped some nice lemon oil on the neck, made it nice and polished and brand new. And actually, that guitar is what I have today. This is Jane, which is the guitar that I was mentioning. And I remember my worship pastor brought it to me like this, and Jane means gift from God, just in case you didn't know. My worship pastor gave this guitar to me just like this, and I remember I looked at it, and as a little teenager, I was like, you know what, God? I promise to keep this guitar for the rest of my life. I would never sell it. I've had many other guitars come through my hands that are higher in value, but just this guitar, knowing the story and all the things that it's been through, I decided to keep this, and I'm never going to sell it. Now, I want you to remember that Jesus not only paid the highest price for you, but he cleaned you up, he clothed you, and declared you his very own son and his very own daughter. And that's what it means to make right, that he put his righteousness within you. You probably didn't earn it, you didn't deserve it, but he gave it freely.
Yeah.
And therefore, solidify and confess your identity in the fact that where you did it, he did it. What that means is that where you didn't have enough strength to empower yourself, he did it for you. Where you didn't have enough strength to free yourself from sin, he did it for you. Where you didn't have enough strength to deliver yourself from that addiction or whatever it may look like, he did it for you, and he alone can do it for you.
Yeah.
So, to wrap things up, I just wanted to bring us back to these two realities that we have in Jesus now. That Christ paid your price, and that he has now made you right. And that meditating on this perfect love ought to bring gratitude into your attitude. And that speaking out this identity that you now have in Jesus is all that you'll ever need.